Hello to my fantastic members and welcome to this behind the scenes. This is Ali. I just want to say a big thank you very much. These videos are only possible because of your help. For this behind the scenes, I thought I'd do something a little bit different, kind of give a commentary about the making of a particular shot and what goes into making the shot, what goes into the cinematography, what goes into the visual effects. The shot in question is this shot from behind. I'm improvising here. There isn't a script. So this shot of the character Jacob looking at the Spinosaurus before the Spinosaurus turns around and we suspect that he's noticed him. So first things first, I jump into DaVinci Resolve Studio, which is a paid software that allows me to cut the character out of a background, and this is supposed to replace green screening. So what I'm doing here is I'm reviewing the footage and then marking out the things in the shot that I want to remain in the shot, and then through the power of magic or whatever, the software will go and find my outline and track me, essentially doing a rotoscoping. It's not always 100% perfect, so I do go back and I will cut things out and I will play with things and try and remove all the things that I don't want in the shot. Sometimes if there's fast moving objects or if there's something that's blurry or anything really, the AI in DaVinci Resolve Studio might not be able to capture that, and so sometimes it is a little bit tedious to go back frame by frame and cut things out. But this is far superior than rotoscoping manually, and it's a big jump forward from green screening, because with a process like this, what I can do is get the alpha channel going, which means create some sort of transparency from the footage, and that means having my character cut out. Everything in the rest of the footage is transparent, and so therefore you don't see the kitchen bench that I was just filmed against. And then what I do is I transport that transparent video into Blender, my 3D software of choice, and place it in the scene where I think it's gonna go. I tamper with the camera's location, obviously the focal length and things like that. I try to match as best as possible to the footage that I recorded, so that it's a little bit more seamless. It doesn't look out of place. I also tamper with the camera's angle to make it look as if it is where it's supposed to look. I'll place the camera roughly in the position of where I wanted that shot to be, and then I'd bring in my footage, which is again the transparent footage on a plane, a flat 2D plane, where the performance lies. The performance itself is timed so that the length of the shot matches exactly, and then I will move it and the camera into place. I will also tweak the angle, like I said, and try and make the size of the character a bit more cohesive, a bit more believable, a bit more in the real world, in the 3D world. Make it work from a 3D perspective. Of course, because this is a 2D plane, if you move the camera about too much, then the illusion is going to be ruined, because you can't, I'm not about to go around my character, because obviously he's a flat plane. So the camera movement is limited in that sense, but of course that is circumvented when you in the planning stages. So I know exactly what what I want from a particular shot before I filmed it. So I know that there will be a shot somewhere along the shot list where the character will poke his head above the seats of the plane and look out towards the Spinosaur, and the Spinosaur is going to react by turning around and noticing him before he ducks down. So it's all about timing. It's all about moving the camera in a way that makes the illusion possible, that doesn't break the illusion, that doesn't make you feel like maybe this was filmed somewhere else. Obviously it was. I don't have access to a plane wreckage, obviously, but it does make you feel like the character is there, especially when I go into more complex things such as lighting, such as fixing the grade of the recorded footage as opposed to the 3D world, and those things make a little bit more of a seamless experience. So here I am timing the characters ducking and whatnot before I bring in the Spinosaurus and try and fit him in. I regularly go back to DaVinci Resolve, which is my editor as well as my color grading suite, to check that everything still works in terms of pacing, in terms of color, in terms of lighting, and etc., etc. You don't want something to be overly out of place. So that's why I'll go back and forth between Blender and between DaVinci Resolve. They're usually always almost simultaneously open together so that I can see what I'm doing. So I will jump around between them all the time. Here I continue to tweak the camera's positioning. The idea for this shot is get the audience to question whether the Spinosaur did see him, or did he duck in time? Did he escape the Spino's gaze and whatnot? But I thought it would be a pretty scary sort of shot to have this big monster looking toward looking into the plane and being like, oh, there he is. Or did he see him? Did he not? Like, was he quick enough to escape? I don't know. I just think that would be creepy. You could also probably notice that I've had a little bit of depth of field going on. The focus is on the Spinosaur, so it's not on the character Jacob, and that'll direct the attention of the viewer. Here I am bringing the Spinosaur model into the shot, placing it where I think it should be. Yes, he's just sitting halfway through the ground, but it's all about what looks good from the camera at this point, so that's what matters. And then I begin the Spinosaur's animation, which in this case really just involves the neck and the head and a little bit of the arms and the upper torso, to give a bit more of a realism, lifelike quality to the animal. So I begin by adding keyframes in Blender. And for those who don't know what keyframes are, it's basically telling the software where a particular thing should be at a particular time. Here I am moving the Spinosaur's neck, for example, and I'm telling them that at the first frame the neck is facing forward, and then at whatever particular frame the neck is supposed to turn around and face and look in towards the cabin of the plane. So I begin with a preliminary, very rudimentary sort of movements just to get the timing right. Obviously, I want the head to snap around and look towards the character first, and I want that to be in time with the character ducking. So that's first before I make any more subtle secondary movements for the Spinosaurus. Here I am again tweaking the camera, trying to get the movement of the neck to flow with the to flow with the character ducking and also the camera dipping with him to put you as a viewer, as the audience, to put you in the perspective of the character and also fear, to really capture that fear from that point of view, from that perspective, and see what the character is seeing, feel what the character is feeling, because I think in turn that's going to translate to being more emotionally involved in the story. Here I am adding the secondary movements, which are the jaws and the arms and movements of the head and little movements of the neck in the same sort of fashion with keyframing. I'm trying to get the animal to behave real, or for the audience at least to believe it's real. It's for this shot I'm using a very rudimentary skeleton because I don't need the fine details of every finger, of every toe, of the tongue and whatnot. So it's a very low poly model that I'm using for the distant shots of the Spinosaurus, or for shots that are not as complicated. So that's why he's only got like 2 neck bones, and his arms are made of 2 bone armatures as well. So here I'm just trying to get the Spinosaur to look as if he's just being distracted, and then notices something within the cabin and then becomes curious as to what that thing is. This video that I'm showing right now is not in real time. It's sped up by 1.5 times. But this is essentially what my workflow looks like in general. This is pretty much how long it normally takes, obviously with more complicated shots, with more dinosaurs, with more nature assets. Things become a little bit more time consuming, setting things up, getting lighting right, etc., etc. But with this shot, it's fairly basic. This is the timeline of how I go about doing things. This is how I show. I'm showing you in almost real time what's going on. Normally shots take half an hour, I want to say, sometimes more than that, sometimes up to an hour to correct and get perfect. But in general, this is what it normally looks like. So this is as close to real time as possible. Here I am adding the nature assets that are going to be behind the Spinosaur. You can see that his head is sitting in the midst of bits of jungle. Now I'm clearing around his head so that, you know, he's not suffocating. Or she. I've always wondered. But I suppose on Isla Sorna there's both the genders. This big box that I'm dragging around the scene is what's known as volumetrics. And it's a special kind of volume cube in Blender that allows light to be scattered in a way that shows depth behind the video, in the background, to allow things to fade into fog. This is the final shot from the film, so you can see the background is faded and it looks like it's bigger than it actually is, which allows me to not make huge amounts of terrain. It sort of just disappears into fog, which is normally how it goes. And that's pretty much it. That's what goes into almost every single shot, all these considerations and whatnot. After that, it goes into color grading, and what color grading is just pretty much darkening the tones a bit and making it a little bit more saturated to pop out. But that's pretty much the workflow. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found something relevant. I hope this wasn't a total disaster being completely unscripted, but I'm just rambling. I'm just saying what's on my mind here, and Hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for the donations, for the memberships. These videos, like I said, are only possible because of your help. So I very, very much appreciate it. Keep a lookout for episode 3. It is in the works. I have written it, and I'm due to start work on it pretty much ASAP. So that won't be too long. Thank you again. See you in the next one.